Hello grade 7s and welcome to your mathematics for today. I hope you guys are well. Right, let's look what we've got in store for us today. Okay, so your warm-up activity along with mental questions to start. And today we are going to be looking at fractions. Okay, so we'll spend a couple days on fractions, really important part of the curriculum for you guys. Really important in grade 8. By the time you get to grade 8, they expect you to know all the basics, the fundamentals, so make sure you understand what's going to be covered. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. The email address is on the bottom of some of the slides, and I'll try to remind you about that during the course of the lesson. There is homework for you that I've uploaded onto the WorksheetCloud website. It is something you need to cut out and you need to piece together the different equivalent fractions, and once you've pieced that together, it will give you your mystery shape. Good luck with that. Let me know how you get on with it. Okay, so your warm-up activity today is the following one. Okay, remember you need to use your math skills to tell me the value of each symbol, and then don't forget to work out the question mark at the end. Right, good luck, off you go. Okay, just before I go over to the Jamboard and start working this out with you, there is the email address at the bottom of the screen. Okay, there I've made it a bit bigger for you, grade7@worksheetcloud.com. Any questions, any comments, please feel free to email and I will answer them during the next lesson for you. Okay, so our warm-up activity for today was as follows. So I would have started here and noticed that the dog and the bone are the same amount, which means that 25 is going to be equal to 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus the 1. Okay, so here I know that 8 is going to be equal to 8. So 3 is going to be equal to 8, and the dog food is minus 5, or 5. Okay, then at the top, I know that the dog food was 5, so it must be 1 plus 5 plus 1 is equal to 7. And then at the bottom, the house is 1 multiplied by the dog food, which is 5, multiplied by the bone, which is 8, divided by the dog, which is 8. Okay, and our order of operations, we haven't had a division one yet, I don't think. Division comes first, comes before multiplication. So 8 divided by 8 is 1. Okay, and then remember we can multiply in any order. 1 times 5 times 1, and that's going to give me an answer of 5. Well done if you worked that out, particularly if it took you a while and you had to stop the recording and work through it by yourself, and then you only started the recording afterwards. That's exactly the attitude that we are looking for. Right, your warm-up questions for today. Write 36 as a product of its prime, so a little bit of a recap from the last lesson. 145 divided by 5, looking to see if you can maybe split that up somehow. The addition of fractions should be a little bit of a recap from grade 6. Then testing your divisibility rules that you should know and have under wraps, and we'll discuss that. And then just to get you thinking a bit more carefully, what is the smallest square and cube number? So it's the same number that's a square number and a cube number. So I'm looking for one number there that's both square and cubed, and it's the smallest one that shares both characteristics. Right, off you go. Okay, so again, if you're not finished, please press pause, work through it, and then carry on after. So 36, I'm just going to use the ladder method. Okay, so 36 divided by 2 is equal to 18. Divided by 2 is equal to 9. Divided by 3 is equal to 3. And 3 again. And then I'm left with 1, so now I'm finished. And remember, we write that as 2 squared times 3 squared. And you know that's 4 times 9, which equals 36. So you know that it must be correct. Remember to always check your work, guys. Second question, 145 divided by 5. Okay. I would split that up into 100 divided by 5 equals 20. And 45 divided by 5 equals 9. And then add them up and I get 29. Okay. 3 quarters plus 2 quarters plus 3 quarters. We should know that when the denominators are the same, we just add the numerators. So 3 plus 2 plus 3 is equal to 8. And you keep that 8 over the same denominator. So it will be 8 over 4. And we know that that means 8 divided by 4. And that's equal to 2. Okay. Is 3,249 divisible by 3? So the divisibility rule of 3 says if I add the individual digits, so 3 plus 2 plus 4 plus 9, and that gives me 5, 9, 18. Okay, if that 18 is divisible by 3, which it is, 18 divided by 3 is 6, then this original number is divisible by 3. Right, and then the last question, what is the smallest square and cube number? So if you list the square and cube numbers, so if we list 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, 81, and the first cube numbers are going to be 1, 9, 27, and 64. There you can see the smallest number that is both a square number and a cube number is 64. Okay, let's carry on. Okay, so today we're going to look at fractions. There are a couple of different types of fractions. So we have proper fractions, improper fractions, where the numerator is bigger than the denominator. We have mixed numbers, which is a whole number and a fraction together, such as 1 3/4. And then equivalent fractions, which are fractions that look different, but are actually equal to the same amount. Okay, so that's just a bit of a recap from previous years that you should know already in grade 7. Okay, here's a little bit of a challenge for you to start off our fraction work. You need to tell me what fraction of this square is shaded in blue. And this little white strip over here, that should also be shaded blue. So the blue part is this whole rectangular shape over here. Okay, I'll give you a few moments to work that out. We'll have a look at it on the Jamboard, and if you need to pause to have some more time to work it out, then please feel free to do so. Okay, so the first thing I would do here is I would section the square off into quarters. Okay, so that's not the most accurate line, but hopefully you get the idea. So this is 1/4. This whole square at the bottom is 1/4. That's this whole square over here. This whole square here is 1/4. So if this whole square is 1/4, it's Give me a second. Okay, then this up here is a quarter. Okay, that green part must be a quarter. And of course, this bottom part over here, I'll just do it blue because it's already in blue, is also a quarter. Okay? Okay. So this piece over here must be half of a quarter. Okay? So that is going to be 1/8. All right, and now all we need to work out is this piece over here. Okay, and we can work out that piece by looking at this square over here. Okay, and we know that that is a quarter of a quarter, which is 1/16. Okay, and then I need to add that 1/16 because those two squares will be equivalent. So 1/16 plus 1/8, okay, is going to be 1/16 plus 2/16 because I need to make the denominators the same. Okay, so that blue section is going to be worth 3/16. So quite a tough one for you guys to sink your teeth into. I encourage you to go back and give it some thought. And again, let me know if you have any questions. I'll be more than happy to answer them at the beginning of the next lesson. Right, equivalent fractions. Okay, so equivalent fractions are fractions again that look different but equal the same amount. So I've put a little fraction wall in there for you. And that fraction wall can give you some kind of idea of what's equal to 1/2. You just go down and you look what other fractions are equal to 1/2 or 2/5 or 3/10, etc., etc. So use that table. It's very, very handy. Okay, but now I'm going to ask you about equivalent fractions. How would you answer these questions over here? So you can see the first figure, it's 2 parts are shaded and it's divided up into 3 pieces. Then 4 parts are shaded and it's divided up into 6 pieces. Okay, and then we have 16 squares shaded and that's divided up into 24 pieces. Okay, now you've got 3 fractions that look completely different, but as the diagrams show you, they are all equal to the same amount. Now, if you had a look at your table, here is 2/3 over here. Yeah, you should see it. There it is there. Okay, and 4/6 is going to be in the same place. There it is there. So you can count up how many 6's to that line. And I don't have the 24ths on my table, but it would be equivalent to 4/6 and 2/3. Okay. The next diagram, you know that it's 1 shaded over 2 parts, 3 shaded over 6 parts, 8 shaded over 16 parts, and 2 shaded over 4 parts. So again, if I looked at my diagram, there is 1/2. There is 3/6. And there is 2/4. And I don't have the 16ths on my chart, but it would all be in line with the 1/2, the 3/6, and the 2/4. So that's a bit of a recap for you. Equivalent fractions would have been covered in grade 5 and 6. So yeah, just something to jog the memory before we move on. Okay, comparing fractions. So how do I know if a fraction is bigger than another fraction? And quite often you'll be asked the question, put the following in ascending order. Remember, ascending order is smallest to biggest, so going up, and descending order is biggest to smallest, so going down. And the way I remember that is descending starts with the letter D, and down starts with the letter D, so descending must be going down. Okay? Right, so at the bottom of that page it says put the following fractions in order. Okay, so you've got 3 over 5. Okay, sorry about that. 3 over 5. You've got 1/2, and you've got 11 over 20. So if I go back to my board and I'll show you how we work this out. Okay, so here for me to compare something, they need to have the same denominators. I cannot compare half a cake with a cake that's cut into 5 pieces and you give me 3. It's very difficult to compare like that. So we change them into equivalent fractions. So I now need to look for the lowest common multiple. Now you would have heard that before because we covered it a couple of lessons ago. And the lowest common multiple is, what is the lowest common multiple of 5, 2, and 20? So if I wrote out the multiples of 5, 2, and 20, what is the first number that would appear in each set? And that would be 20. So how do I get 5 and 2 to 20? I multiply that by 4, and I multiply that by 10. Now remember, we've spoken about equivalent fractions. Whatever you do to the denominator, you must do to the numerator. So I must multiply that by 4, and I must multiply that by 10. So now my new fractions are going to be 12 over 20, 10 over 20, and 11 over 20. Now it's quite straightforward to see which one is the biggest one because they're all out of 20. So your biggest fraction is going to be your 12 over 20, then your 11 over 20, and 10 over 20 is going to be your smallest. Another way of looking at this is if I go back to my diagram, you can see at the bottom that 3 over 5 is greater than 1/2. So immediately you should be able to recognize that it's going to be bigger. And 11 over 20 is also greater than 1/2. So just by looking at that at the bottom, you should be able to see that 1/2 is going to be the smallest. Okay, so 9 over 12, 2 over 3, and 5 over 6. Let's see if you can do that quickly by yourselves. Okay, remember to press pause if you're not ready. So the lowest common denominator here is going to be your 12. So I'll multiply that by 4 to get to 12, and that by 4, because I must do the same to the numerator and the denominator of the same fraction. And I'll multiply that by 2 and that by 2. So 9 over 12, 8 over 12, and 10 over 12. And now you can see that 10 over 12 will be the biggest, then 9 over 12, and 8 over 12 will come in third. Okay, so that's us comparing fractions, a very common question because it tests so much. It tests your knowledge of the lowest common multiples. It tests your knowledge of whether you know you must do the same thing to the denominator and numerator. It tests your multiples. It tests if you understand what ascending and descending mean. So I really encourage you to make sure you're clear on that piece of fraction work. Okay, so we move on to converting between improper and mixed fractions. And again, this should be a recap from last year, so we won't spend too long on it. You know that an improper fraction is a fraction where the numerator is bigger than the denominator. And if I show you these examples on the Jamboard, you can see that this whole shape has been shaded in, so we therefore know that that is one whole number, and there are 2 segments shaded in. of the second shape, and that's 2/8. Okay, so that's what it would be as a mixed number. Okay, and then just remember when we want to convert that to improper, we go 1 multiplied by 8 plus the 2, so that gives us 10/8. Now, why 10? Why 1 times 8 plus 2? Well, if we count the individual pieces that have been shaded in, there are 8 over here, and an additional 2 here, and then that's what gives me my 10. So on the right-hand side, we've got 1 hole, a second hole, a third hole, so 3 holes. 1 piece is shaded, and the fractions are divided up into quarters. So as an improper fraction, it will be 3 times 4 plus 1, which is 13. And if I count how many squares there are shaded in here, there are 4, 8, 12, and then the single one, 13. Okay, and the last example, it's 1 hole shaded, another hole shaded, so 2 holes, and 2/3. And as an improper fraction, it's going to be 8/3. And if I count, there are 3/3 there, another 3 that have been shaded in there, and another 2 there, and 3 plus 3 plus 2 give me my 8. Okay? Great. Just a reminder of the email address on the bottom of the page to send me any questions that I'll answer during the next lesson. And also a reminder of your homework on WorksheetCloud that you can download. Don't think of it as homework. Think of it as a bit of a fun activity that will help you practice your revising these concepts. Okay, so here's your turn. What I want you guys to do is I want you to work through these examples, follow the instructions. If I start working through them on the Jamboard before you finished, then please press pause, continue to work through to L, and then check how many of them you got correct. And I encourage you guys to challenge yourselves as much as possible. Okay, guys, I'm gonna carry on. I doubt that you've got all the way up to L, but as I said, press pause, and you can continue. So I'm looking at A. So what do I do to get from 4 to 64? And that is I multiply by 16. So I must multiply by the 3 by the 16, and that's going to give me 48. For B, I'm multiplying the 24 by 4, and I must multiply the 6 by 4 to get 24. For C, I'm multiplying the 7 by 4, so I do the same to the 9, and I get 36. And for D, I'm multiplying by 50, and I must do the same to 4. Okay, remember I said this was just a recap for you, but feel free to email me on any questions. Okay, E was simplifying. Okay, so I'm looking for the highest common factor. There is the highest common factor that we spoke about last week. And 4/32, both 4 goes into 4 once, and 4 goes into 32 8 times. So the equivalent fraction of 4/32 is 1/8. What number is the highest common factor of 8 and 12? And it's 4. So 4 goes into 8 twice and into 12 3 times. Highest common factor of 12 and 36 is 12. So 12 is into 12 once and into 36 3 times. And I'm hoping that we can recognize that 24 is half of 48. 24 goes into 48 twice. The bottom line was converting from a mixed number to an improper fraction. So I'm not drawing out 30 shapes for you, but that's 30 whole numbers. So 30 multiplied by 3 is 90, and add the 2 is 92 over 3. 10 multiplied by 100 is 110, plus the 3 is 113 over 11. 7 times 7 is 49, plus the 1 is 50 over 7. And 1 times 9 is 10, plus the 9 is 19 over 10. Okay, well done if you got to grips with those and you understand those concepts. But like I said, they were taught before in previous years. But again, feel free to email me should you have any questions, and the email address is at the bottom of the slide there, which says grade7@worksheetcloud.com. Right, guys, all that's left for today is your finisher. So remember, in this multiplication square, the 200 plus the gold bars plus Captain Hook's hook plus the pirate skull needs to equal 286. I bet you never thought you'd hear about pirate skulls and Captain Hook during maths. But yeah, let me know what you think these are worth. That's your challenge for today. Maybe you can compete or challenge someone at home to do it with you. Okay, guys, so there's the table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say the 3 times the 2 is equal to the 6, which belongs at the bottom. Okay, and then through trial and error, I worked out that this was 10 and this was 20. It doesn't always work out that you get the right numbers in the beginning, or you could have the 20 on the left and the 10 on the top and work it out, and then you'd have to figure out, you'd have to change it. But if that happened and you still got it right, then well done. 10 multiplied by 2 is 20, and then this 3 and this 20 is 60. So if I add the columns up, that's 260 and 26, and if I add them up, I get my 286, which is what I was looking for at the beginning. Well done if you got that right. Okay, guys, so just last mention of the email address at the bottom of the page if you have any questions. Otherwise, thanks very much for joining us. We'll be here every day this week. Please join us. Keep safe. Keep your parents happy. Keep the house clean. And yeah, have a great day. All the best, guys.